It was a little after 7 on a heat-heavy Friday when Ethan Cole rolled his dented minivan into the last working pump at Miller's Gas Mart, the old station out by the soybean fields. The air felt thick enough to chew. Cicadas buzzed like loose wiring. The sun hovered low and mean over the blacktop, turning everything the color of a stove coil. "Windows down, ladies," Ethan called, tapping the glass. 2 identical faces popped into the rear-view brown eyes, summer freckles, ponytails escaping the same elastic. Lila in the left booster, Nora in the right. 6 years old, and convinced they were undercover superheroes, because they owned matching denim jackets with lightning bolts stitched on the back. "We're thirsty," Nora said, already unbuckling. "We're dust," Lila added, dramatic as a soap opera. "I can feel my bones." "You felt your bones yesterday," Ethan said, fighting a smile. "No store, we have water in the cooler." Both girls groaned. They were excellent at groaning. He cut the engine. The pump clicked once, then started its slow metronome. As the dollars crawled higher, too high, always too high. Ethan rubbed the knot in his shoulder that never quite let go. He'd put in a full day hanging drywall at a remodel site, and a half day at the school district's bus garage, swapping out brake shoes on buses that should have retired with disco. On weekends, he picked up lawn work from a guy who paid cash and never asked about paperwork. $41. 42. He glanced around the lot out of habit, the small-town scan for trouble that gets baked into you after a few hard years. Old Pete was leaning on the counter inside, arguing with the radio. A tourist couple was trying to take a selfie with a crooked Miller sign. And at the next pump over, half hidden by the glare off a rental SUV, a woman stood very still, with both hands pressed to her face. Ethan almost looked away. People teach you early to mind your business, but something about the way her shoulders trembled, not a hiccuping cry, not attention-seeking, just a quiet collapse that looked like it had been postponed all day, hooked him. He put the nozzle on the latch and told the girls, "Stay buckled. I'll be 2 minutes." "Can we at least roll the windows lower?" Lila asked. "Lower," he said, and shut the door. Up close, he could see details. A cream-colored dress that didn't belong next to a pump stained with old oil. One strap slipping from a tan shoulder. A leather tote half unzipped at her feet. Nails that looked like they'd been manicured this morning. And in the space where glamour should have been, a grief so raw it made his throat ache. "Ma'am?" Ethan kept his voice low, hands visible. "You learned, after life knocked you around, to approach hurt like you'd approach a skittish horse. Slow, honest. You okay?" She shook her head without looking up. "Do you need me to call someone?" Another small shake. "I don't want to bother you," she whispered finally, voice hoarse. "I'm sorry." "You're not bothering me," he said. "I've got time." That was almost true. He never had time. But the drumbeat in her hands, tiny tremors she couldn't hide, made the clock irrelevant. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a folded bandana. Clean enough. "Here," he said, then realized how it might seem. No pressure. It's washed. That won a startled sound that might have been a laugh. She took it and pressed it to her face, breathing through cotton. Behind Ethan, the minivan window squeaked lower. "Dad?" Nora called. "Can we say hi?" "Hold," Ethan said without turning, then back to the woman. "I'm Ethan. I live over on County Road 9. I don't need your story, but I can stand here a while if you like." Her hands fell to her sides. Her eyes, hazel, rimmed red, were older than her face. "Ava," she said. "Ava Hart." Nice to meet you, Ava Hart, he said. Because sometimes ceremony helps when the ground is moving. You want water? We have a cooler. I'm fine, she said automatically. Then, after a beat, I'm not fine, I figured. He nodded at the rental. You stranded? No. She looked at the sky as if trying to read instructions up there. Just empty. The pump coughed and clicked. Ethan left the nozzle and turned toward the minivan. Two faces were mashed against the glass like friendly burglars. Ladies, this is Miss Ava. She's having a rough day, he said. Hands to yourselves. The girls tumbled out anyway, in stereo. I'm Lila, said one. I'm Nora, said the other. We're twins, but only on the outside. A corner of Ava's mouth twitched. What are you on the inside? Hungry, Nora said. Tired, Lila said, outsighing her sister. Honest, Ethan muttered. Could I? Ava started, then stopped and bit her lip. Could I borrow your dad for a second? Lila and Nora? We can share, Lila said solemnly and took Nora's hand. They wandered toward the strip of scrub grass where the station's one heroic tree tried to cast shade over a picnic table. Ethan moved a step closer to Ava without crowding her. I rehearsed this in the car, she said, eyes on the asphalt. It sounded reasonable in my head. Hi, I'm not okay. My husband died 3 months ago. I have a job that looks shiny from the outside and rotten from the inside. I've been driving for hours because I can't stand the echo in our house. I pulled in to get gas and remembered I haven't remembered to eat. She exhaled so hard her shoulders dipped. Then I got out, and I couldn't make my hands work. Ethan didn't offer a tidy phrase. He had a collection of them from well-meaning church ladies and distant relatives. God never gives you more than you can handle. Everything happens for a reason. You're so strong. And they had all felt to him like stickers slapped on a cracked windshield. They hid the damage without fixing anything. I'm sorry, he said, plain. Ava scrubbed her face again with the bandana. People keep saying that, because there's nothing else to say that isn't a lie. She looked at him now. Really looked. You talk like someone who's been there. Yeah, he said, and that one syllable held a storm. 4 years ago. Car accident. Their mom didn't make it. Lila and Nora were 2.5, all curls and questions. The questions haven't stopped. Ava pressed her lips together. How do you do it? I don't, not really. I just make breakfast and try to keep them from putting Lego up their noses, and sometimes we sing along to the radio too loud because that makes the dishes go faster. If there's a trick, it's that grief gets bored if you give it jobs. Ava blinked. Like what? Like, hey, grief, hold this wrench while I swap a belt on a school bus. Or grief, meet the laundry. He shrugged. It's dumb, but it works on Tuesdays. Ava's laugh came out rusty and surprised. She looked over at the twins, who were arguing brightly about whether clouds were made of cotton candy or sheep. She swallowed. I didn't mean to fall apart at a gas station. There are worse places, Ethan said. Once I lost it in the cereal aisle. The Cheerios took it personally. That earned a real smile. Small, but not fragile. A truck roared past on the highway, and the hot wind lifted a corner of Ava's skirt. She steadied it with one hand, then glanced at the fuel meter on her rental. Full. I should go, she said, not moving. Okay, he said, not moving either. They stood in that small quiet that happens when two people believe the moment is about to be over and neither quite wants it to be. The girls trotted back, each with a dandelion puff, wishes stealing up on stems. For you, Nora said, offering hers to Ava. You blow it and pick a wish. Ava took the puff like it might bruise. What should I wish for? A dog, Lila said. A pool, Nora countered. Sleep, Ethan offered. Ava looked at him again, softer now. Maybe just another minute where this hurts less. Good wish, Ethan said. She blew. The white seas lifted and scattered small parachutes carrying something invisible. Ava glanced at his van, the cheap car seat covers, the cracked dashboard charm the girls had made in Sunday school. I don't have anything to give you, she said. You gave me water and your time, and her voice snagged. You let me be a mess without looking away. You don't owe me anything, Ethan said. We're neighbors, even if we've never met. I don't live here, she said. I grew up one town over these days. She gestured vaguely toward the horizon. The city, the noise, the calendar that never stops. Even neighbors get lost, he said. Still counts. Ava hesitated, then reached into her tote and pulled out a business card. It was heavy stock, a muted gray with her name, and a company logo he recognized from billboards along Route 6, Heart Meridian. He tried to place it finance, real estate. Too big for folks like him to have a reason to know. If you ever need, she broke off. I don't know. If the van dies on the side of the road, or if you want to try a different kind of bandana, she said, attempting a joke and half missing. My number's on there. Ethan took the card, but slid it into his pocket without looking. Thanks, he said. We're okay. You're not, she said, kind. But you will be. He wanted to tell her the same. Instead, he said, drive safe. She nodded, then crouched with deliberate care to put her eye level with the twins. Thank you for the wishes, she said. They worked. Do you want to be our friend? Lila asked, because Lila didn't believe in space between questions and answers. I do, Ava said softly. Very much. She stood, steadied, then turned toward the SUV. She moved like someone remembering how to occupy her own body again. Ethan watched her go, watched the taillights disappear past the soybeans and into the reddening sky. When the lot was only the lot again, he exhaled. He hadn't realized he'd been holding his breath. He buckled the girls back in and passed each a paper cup of cooler water. Lila thanked him by saluting with hers and spilling half down her chin. Dad? Nora said as he pulled onto the road. Is Miss Ava going to be okay? I don't know, he said. Honesty, their family policy, even when it stung. But I think tonight was better than it would have been. Lila leaned her forehead to the glass and watched the fields blur. I think she smelled like fancy flowers and sad. Yeah, Ethan said. Me too. Back at their rental, a postage stamp apartment above the hardware store, Ethan hustled them through the nightly drill. Quick showers, jammies, teeth, the eternal negotiation over how many pages of the fantastic Mr. Fox count as one chapter. When the lights were finally off and the twin breathing settled into that staggered rhythm only twins can manage, he stood in the doorway a long time. On the dresser, the glossy card burned tiny and silver in the lamplight where he'd thrown his jeans. He thought of calling. For what? To say you did fine? To say thanks for not breaking alone? To say we exist in case you need that fact tomorrow? He didn't call. He sat on the edge of the bed he and the girls shared mattress, tired, springs vocal, and ran his thumb over the corner of the card until it wore white. At some point he slept. At some point the card slid to the floor. Morning came smelling like coffee he couldn't afford, and a sky the color of an old sheet. He packed school lunches, PBJ, apple slices, 2-star stickers each, because the last week of first grade is a marathon. He found mismatched socks and declared them a fashion statement. He tied double knots. He forgot the knots and untied them again. On the way out, he remembered the card. He picked it up, tucked it into the side pocket of his wallet, and told himself it would be a story someday. The night at Pump 3, when a stranger cried and he didn't know what to do, so he didn't leave. He told himself it was over. He was wrong. Ethan didn't think about Ava again until he did. The next morning, after dropping Lila and Nora at Mrs. Rayner's before-school program, he headed to the bus garage. The sun was already burning through the haze, and the air smelled like motor oil and old rubber. Halfway through replacing a brake line, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Hello? Ethan? This is Ava. From the gas station. Her voice was steadier now, but there was a trace of that tremor he remembered. Oh. Hey. Everything okay? Yes, she said quickly. Well, sort of. I know this is strange, but would you and the girls have dinner with me tonight? Ethan wiped his hands on a rag. Dinner? I owe you, Ava said. And them. You gave me more kindness than I deserved last night. Let me at least feed you. He hesitated. The girls would love it. They'd also interrogate her with all the subtlety of a police procedural. You don't owe me anything, he said. I know. I want to. There was a pause long enough for him to imagine saying no. And then he heard his own voice say, All right. By 5:30, the twins were dressed in their fancy clothes, identical skirts with sparkly trim and t-shirts that read Girl Power. Ethan had fought and lost the battle over glitter shoes. The restaurant was nothing like the pizza place they usually went to for celebrations. This was linen napkins, candles on the tables, and a hostess who said, Mr. Cole, like she'd been expecting him all her life. Ava was already there, sitting at a corner booth. Her dress was simple but elegant, her hair loose over her shoulders. She stood awkwardly, like she wasn't used to waiting for people, and smiled. You made it. You thought we wouldn't, Nora asked. I hoped you would, Ava said. The girl slid in beside her without hesitation, leaving Ethan the opposite bench. Menus appeared. Lila pointed to the first thing she saw. What's gnocchi? It's like pasta, Ava said, but softer, like little clouds. I want that, Lila declared. Me too, Nora added. Ethan ordered a burger. Dinner was easy. Easier than it had any right to be. The girls told Ava about school, about their favorite tree in the park, about the time their dad burned pancakes and pretended it was smoky flavor. Ava laughed, really laughed, and told them about the stray cat that once followed her into a board meeting. Ethan mostly listened. Watching Ava talk to them was like watching someone remember a language they thought they'd forgotten. When dessert came 3 spoons for 1 slice of chocolate cake, Ava glanced at him. Can I tell them? She asked. Tell us what? Nora said immediately. Ava set down her spoon. I bought a house today. The girls blinked. Cool, Lila said. Why? Because I needed somewhere that felt like home, Ava said. Then she looked right at Ethan. And because I was hoping you'd take a look at it for me. Make sure it's not falling apart. He frowned. I'm not a realtor. No, Ava said, but you're someone I trust. On the drive home, the twins chattered nonstop about the cake, the cloud pasta, and Ava's house. "You like her," Nora said at one point, more statement than question. "She seems nice," Ethan replied. "She's sad," Lila added. Ethan glanced at them in the mirror. "She's getting better. Maybe we can help," Nora said. He didn't answer. But later, after the girls were asleep, he took Ava's card from his wallet and set it on the nightstand. It was starting to feel less like the end of a strange story and more like the start of one. Saturday morning came with a sky so bright it felt almost new. Ethan loaded Lila and Nora into the van after breakfast. Oatmeal, toast, and a promise of adventure. Ava's voice had been clear in his mind all week. "I was hoping you'd take a look at it for me." The GPS led them out past the edge of town, where the roads narrowed and the cornfields stretched until they blurred into the horizon. Finally, they turned down a shaded street lined with old maples. At the very end stood a 2-story white house with green shutters, a wide porch, and flower beds overrun with weeds. Ava was already on the porch, coffee cup in hand. She waved when she saw them, and the twins scrambled out before Ethan could warn them to be careful. "Whoa," Nora breathed, taking in the porch swing. "It's like a storybook." "Does it have ghosts?" Lila asked. Ava laughed. "Only friendly ones, if any." Ethan walked up the steps, scanning the siding, the roofline, the porch boards underfoot. "Built maybe in the 30s, he said. "Looks solid. Could use paint." "I bought it as is," Ava said. "Figured if the bones were good, I could work with the rest." The front door opened into a wide hallway with scuffed hardwood floors and high ceilings. The air smelled faintly of dust and old wallpaper glue. "This is huge," Nora's voice echoed as she ran to peek into a sunlit living room. Lila followed, their footsteps scattering motes in the light. "They're going to find every creaky spot in the house," Ethan said. "I like creaky," Ava replied. "Makes it feel alive." They toured room by room. A formal dining room with a built-in china cabinet. A narrow kitchen in need of serious updating. Upstairs, 3 bedrooms and a bathroom with a clawfoot tub. In one of the bedrooms, sunlight streamed across faded floral wallpaper. Lila twirled in the center. "This one's mine," she announced. "It's not for sale to you," Ethan said. "Not yet," Lila countered. Ava smiled at him over the girls' heads. She has vision. After the tour, they sat on the porch steps with paper cups of lemonade Ava had brought from a cooler. "So," she said, "what do you think?" Ethan rubbed his jaw. "Roof's in decent shape. Foundation looks fine. Some of the wiring's probably old, would need checking. Plumbing's anyone's guess until you run it for a week. But, yeah, it's good. Really good." Ava let out a breath. "That's what I was hoping you'd say." He glanced at her. "You really want to do this? It's a lot of work." "I think I need the work," she said simply. "Something I can fix with my hands. Something that doesn't involve board meetings or press statements." For a moment, they just sat listening to the breeze through the maples. The twins had wandered to the far corner of the yard, chasing a butterfly. "You know," Ava said, "I can't remember the last time I sat outside and just was." "Gets easier with practice," Ethan said. They ended up spending the afternoon there. The girls helped pull weeds, which mostly meant making piles of leaves and sticks. Ethan checked the basement, knocked on beams, tested outlets. At one point, Ava brought out sandwiches and they ate cross-legged on the porch. She asked about his work, his routines, the girls' school. "Most days it's just me and them," Ethan said. "Families scattered, friends, Well, they drift. You've done a good job, Ava said quietly. He looked at her, unsure how to take it. I mean it, she added. They're happy. That's not easy. As the sun dipped lower, Lila and Nora curled up together on the porch swing, worn out from their yard work. Ava watched them, a faint smile on her face. They're good together, she said. They're twins, Ethan replied. They fight like wildcats half the time, but they take on the world for each other. Ava was quiet for a long moment. Then, I never had kids. We kept saying someday, but someday never came. Ethan didn't push. He just nodded, letting the air hold the rest. When it was time to go, the girls protested. We want to stay, Nora said. We can help fix it. Maybe another day, Ava promised. On the drive home, Lila leaned forward between the seats. Dad, can Ava be our friend forever? That's not really how forever works, Ethan said. Can we try? Nora asked. He glanced at them in the mirror. Yeah, he said. We can try. That night, after the girls were asleep, Ethan found himself standing at the kitchen sink, looking out at the dark street. His hands still smelled faintly of sawdust from Ava's porch railing. She was different now from the woman he'd met at the gas station. Still sad, maybe, but steadier, more present. And he couldn't shake the feeling that he wanted to see where that steadiness might lead for her, for the girls, for him. A week later, Ava called again. Are you busy? She asked. Ethan looked around his kitchen. Mismatched mugs on the counter, school permission slips tacked to the fridge. Lila and Nora drawing at the table. Depends on your definition. I need an opinion, Ava said. On paint. When they arrived at the house on Willow Lane, the porch was covered in paint swatches, long cardboard strips taped to the siding. Ava stood there in jeans and a faded t-shirt, her hair pulled into a messy knot. She had a smudge of pale yellow on her cheek. Hey, she said. I can't decide. Buttercream, sunflower, or whatever this one is. Looks like lemon meringue, Ethan said, reading the tiny label. The twins immediately took sides. Lila liked sunflower because it was louder, and Nora liked buttercream because it was nicer to sit by. Ava laughed. I should have known they'd split the vote. The day stretched into something unplanned. They scraped loose paint, trimmed back the overgrown shrubs, swept the porch. Ethan repaired a loose step, while Ava held the board steady. The twins turned cardboard boxes into castle walls in the yard. At one point, Ava disappeared inside and came back with iced tea. She set a glass by Ethan and sat beside him on the steps. Feels good, doesn't it? She said. What does? Making something better, he nodded. Yeah, it does. By late afternoon, the front yard looked almost tamed. The girls were sprawled on a blanket under the maples, eating peanut butter crackers. Ava leaned against the porch post, watching them. I keep thinking about that night at the gas station, she said. How close I came to just driving away. You didn't, Ethan reminded her. No, she said softly, and I'm glad. Before they left, Ava stopped him. I want to show you something. She led him upstairs to the smallest bedroom, the one Lila had claimed during the first tour. The walls were stripped of wallpaper now, revealing smooth plaster. I was thinking, Ava said, once I'm settled, maybe the girls could help me decorate it, even if it's just for when they visit. Ethan looked at her. That's a big offer. I mean it, she said. They've been good for me. You have, too. For a moment, neither of them looked away. Summer bled into fall. Ethan and the girls came by most weekends. Sometimes they worked on the house. Sometimes they just sat on the porch with lemonade. The girls grew comfortable enough to wander through the rooms on their own. Ava started keeping a box of their favorite snacks in the pantry. One Saturday, Ava joined them for a picnic at the park. Lila and Nora showed her how to swing high enough to see the moon. Ava tried, laughing until she was breathless. That night, when Ethan tucked them in, Nora whispered, "It feels like we've known her forever." "Feels like," he agreed. It wasn't dramatic when things shifted between him and Ava. There was no single kiss in the rain, no sudden declaration, just small moments that became something larger. The way she looked for him first when she wanted to share a thought, the way his voice softened when he spoke to her, the way the girl's joy doubled when she was around. By the first frost, the house was painted buttercream Nora had won, and the porch swing had been sanded and stained. Ava hosted them for hot chocolate one Sunday afternoon, a fire crackling in the living room. The girls sat on the rug, playing a board game. Ava handed Ethan a mug, their fingers brushing. "I used to think I knew what home meant," she said. "It was walls and locks and a schedule. Now I think it's this." Ethan looked around, the twins arguing over game rules, the sound of rain on the porch roof, the warmth of her beside him. "Yeah," he said. "Me too." The holidays came. They spent Thanksgiving at Ava's, with the girls making name cards for the table. In December, they decorated a tree together in her living room, mismatched ornaments, paper stars, and one lopsided angel made from a toilet paper roll. On New Year's Eve, after the girls fell asleep on the couch, Ethan and Ava sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets against the cold. Midnight fireworks popped in the distance. "I'm not sure what this is," Ava said quietly, "but I'm glad it's here." Ethan reached for her hand. "We'll figure it out." Spring arrived with the maples greening again. The girls had claimed the porch swing as their reading spot, their voices carrying through the open windows. Ava was in the kitchen making sandwiches. Ethan joined her, leaning against the counter. "You know," she said, "this house feels less mine and more ours these days." He smiled. "That's not a bad thing." "No," she agreed. "Not bad at all." That evening, as they were leaving, Lila stopped on the porch steps and looked back at Ava. "Can we call you Aunt Ava?" she asked. Ava's smile wavered for just a second before she said, "I'd like that." In the van, Nora leaned against her sister. "Feels like forever," she murmured. Ethan glanced at them in the mirror, then at the buttercream house in the distance. Sometimes, he thought, forever starts at a gas station, and sometimes it just keeps going.